NETECH. This week we're going to make pizza. So we're going to start with the dough. Pizza dough might seem like a kind of a hard thing to make, but it's actually really, really simple. A few things that you'll need. You'll need 333 grams of pizza flour, or we could substitute it out with bread flour as well. You'll need 200 grams of water. You'll need 10 grams of salt, 5 grams of olive oil, and 1 gram of yeast, okay, dry yeast. So the first thing we're going to do is take our yeast and mix it with our water. Our water should be about 110 degrees. We're going to go ahead and add our sugar in there as well. And we're going to give that a stir. We're going to let that yeast activate inside there, and then we're going to use that yeast once it's activated. So give it a good stir, make sure it gets stirred in real well. It's not going to bubble up too much because it's not a whole lot of yeast. So let that bubble up, and then we'll continue on with our pizza dough. Okay, so we've set it for about 5 minutes and let our yeast activate. It's nice and bubbly. Now we're going to combine all of our ingredients. So we're going to start with about half of our flour. We're going to put it into one of our mixers. Get about half that flour in there, and it doesn't have to be exact. Just get pretty close. Put your yeast, your water, and your sugar that's in this one. Go ahead and mix that in, and our 5 grams of salt. Okay, and we're going to take that, and we're going to use a dough hook to make this. We're making a dough. It's a pizza dough. Go ahead and put your dough hook on. Raise up there. And we're going to set it to about speed. Set it to about speed 3 on the mixer. Make sure you have a rubber spatula so that you can pull anything that gets stuck on the sides off. And we're going to mix this for about a minute until it all comes together. Alright, so we've mixed it for about a minute now. It should look like kind of a soupy dough. We're going to go ahead and add the rest of our flour to this. Get all your flour in there. And then we're going to continue mixing on about a 3, making sure it incorporates until it starts forming a ball. And you'll see it start to pull off the sides and start actually forming a ball. You may still have to use your spatula a little bit. But it should start forming on its own. Once it forms a ball, once it pulls all the way across the side, we're going to go ahead and add our olive oil to this as well. Okay? And then we're going to turn this up just a little bit, and we're going to turn this up to about a 4, and we're going to mix it on a 4 for about 6 minutes. Okay, so as you can see, it's formed into a ball. We've been mixing it for about 6 minutes now. Now we're going to turn up the speed, and we're going to turn it to about a 7 and run it on there for about another 3 minutes. Okay. What we're doing is we're developing different layers of gluten in there. Developing more gluten. We want a very stretchy dough. That's why we use pizza flour or bread flour, because it has a high protein content, and it holds together really well, and we can add a lot of gluten to it. So again, for about another 3 minutes, we're going to put it on about a 7 and let it go on 7. So we let it spin for about another 3 minutes on 7. Now what we're going to do is we're going to take this out, and we're going to rest it overnight. So we can let this sit here and rest for about 45 minutes, and then we'll go ahead and ball it up. So the way we ball it up is just like we do everything else. We're going to take it, put it onto our surface. Make sure you don't want to add any more flour to it right now. Now what we're going to do is we're going to take this and fold the socks on it. All right, so everyone knows how to do that by now. Fold the socks, fold the socks, fold the socks. and we're gonna try to make sure that we get any kind of air that's inside there out of there. We're going to let this rest in the cooler overnight. What that does is it helps develop a layer of flavor to it. It also makes the dough handle a lot more easily tomorrow. And you want to use a chilled dough whenever you're stretching it as well. So go ahead and once you get your socks folded, go ahead and pinch any kind of air bubbles that are in the bottom. We're going to take it, smooth it out like this, and we're going to proof it. We're going to rest it overnight in the cooler. So put it into a well-greased pan, and we'll wrap that up and leave it in the cooler for 24 hours. All right, guys, welcome back. So our dough set in the cooler overnight. I actually took that big ball and split it in half, so I didn't want to make a big giant pizza. We're just going to make smaller pizzas today. So once it's set overnight, it should have risen just a little bit. It should be bigger than whenever you put it in there. Also, it'll kind of start to flatten out a little bit, and that's how you know that it's really there. The reason we rest it overnight in the cooler is to let it ferment, let it develop some flavors that it wouldn't have if you didn't do that. Also, it adds, again, to the gluten content, helps it make it a little more pliable, not tear as easy. And just overall adds better flavor, better texture to the pizza. So to stretch our dough, all we're going to do now is take some flour. We're going to put it on our surface, whatever your surface may be, and you can use quite a bit of flour. Take your dough ball out. I like to put it the bottom side down, and then I'm just going to smash that straight down. Okay, so we should have a circle here, and this is what we're going to work with. So I like to take these two hands, and I like to stretch it and pull it at the same time. So for right now, make sure you have plenty of flour so that it moves pretty well underneath there. And then we're just going to kind of stretch, just like I said, stretch and pull at the same time. You want to do this all the way around it. If you have any spots that are bigger than the other spots or longer, just pull there. Okay? So I'll kind of start from the inside and work my way out. Once I get to about right here, so we're about maybe a 6-inch, 7-inch circle, this is where I'm going to change it up just a little bit. Okay, so get some of that flour off, and we're going to move it over to the edge, and I like to let it hang over a little bit, about a quarter of the way, and then let gravity help me do that stretching and pulling. Okay, so you're going to make a mess, it's going to happen. Keep your fingers about a 1/4 inch in from the outside so that you can make a crust. Okay, so we're letting the gravity pull. I'm pulling. We're just trying to stretch that dough out as much as we can. We want to make this pretty much as thin as we possibly can. If you tear it, that's all right. We can fix it. But you're trying not to tear it. So we're working it, trying to keep that crust on the outside. You can see that outside's a lot thicker than that inside. That's what we're looking for. Okay? If we were going to throw it, if you wanted to toss it, the way you do it, you don't toss it with your hands like this. You'd actually take your fist and you ball them up underneath there, and you throw it up, and you stretch it whenever it lands. So you want to see what that looks like? You can stretch it just like this, spinning it around if you want to. If you want to toss it, you toss it like that, catch it, and spin it. But it's not necessary to toss it up in the air. All that. So stretching it as thin as we can. Again, letting gravity help. Keeping that crust on the outside, not working all the way to the edge. And we'll stretch it to about maybe a 10-inch, 12-inch circle, depending on how much dough we have here and how much we can stretch it without ripping. So if it's not perfectly circle, that's all right. If there's parts that's bigger than the other part, you can pull those parts a little more. If there's parts that's thinner, don't keep pulling those parts. Okay? So we have a pretty good circle here, fairly thin, and there's no tears in it. If there was a tear, all we'd have to do, like let's say that I tore it right here. So you guys see that tear? All we have to do is take our fingers, pinch it back together, okay, anywhere where it's thick, and then we're just going to stretch that back out again, okay? So once we get it all stretched out, what we're going to want to do, we're going to want to have our pizza peel set up, and we're going to flour our pizza peel pretty well so that it doesn't stick. And we could use flour like we're using here, or you could use semolina, which is a different type of flour, which if you guys have ever had it, it kind of feels like cornmeal. It's a coarser ground than this. And we're just going to move our pizza dough over to our pizza peel. If you build your pizza without moving it over to the peel, it's gonna be a really tough time. You'll probably have a calzone instead of a pizza because it's going to, it's gonna be really hard to get off the table. Next step is sauce. I think everyone knows kind of the ingredients that go on a pizza, so we're gonna sauce it up. And you don't want a ton of sauce, all right? We don't need a really saucy pizza. Start from the inside. You're gonna use a spoodle, probably about halfway for this small of a pizza. Start from the middle and work your way out. So I got a little too much sauce on there. I'm gonna go ahead and take some of that off. So start from the inside and work your way out. Just pushing that sauce as you go. Okay, and you wanna work it to about maybe quarter to half an inch away from that pizza edge, depending on how much sauce, how much crust you want on that pizza. So take your time here. If you get pizza sauce on the outside, it's gonna burn. So you wanna make sure you try to keep it on the inside as much as possible. So that's plenty of sauce on there. If you have a little extra, you can scrape it off or push it to the middle. Wipe it off so that it doesn't burn on the outside of that pizza. Now we're gonna add our cheese. And not every pizza is created the same. Some pizzas like Chicago style, they're gonna do a lot of cheese, a lot more cheese. They're gonna be a lot thinner crust and a lot more ingredients. And the ingredients is actually gonna be underneath the cheese. But on a traditional pizza, we normally just have the ingredients sitting on top of the cheese. So start from the outside, work your way in. All right, start from the outside and work your way in. That's a very important thing, and that goes hand in hand with pretty much anything you're going to make that where you have to layer ingredients on it. You want to start from the outside and work your way in. Now, a pizza doesn't take nearly as much cheese as you think it would. I know it seems like this isn't very much cheese on here, but this is actually more than enough. If you keep adding cheese, you're going to have kind of a greasy pizza. So just kind of cover up any of the red spots where you see sauce, where you see dough, and just have it generally covered. So it should look something like this. If you have any cheese that's hanging off the edge, push it back to the center. At this point, we would add our toppings. I'm just going to make a simple cheese pizza. At this point, we would add our toppings, but since we're not having toppings, I'll leave them off. And then I generally coat it with a little bit of Parmesan over the top of that. That Parmesan gets nice and crispy, adds a nice bubble effect to it. So just a little Parmesan over the outside. Now we're going to take our peel and you're going to give it a little shake. Okay, just to make sure that the pizza's going to come off. See how it's moving around? That's what we're looking for. We want that shake so that we get it in the oven, and we're not shaking it in the oven and all of our toppings are going everywhere. Make sure if you have anything hanging off, get rid of it because we don't want it sticking to the oven floor. And then we're going to pop it right in our deck oven. Okay? So here's our deck oven. It's going to go directly on there. This is set at 600 degrees right now. You're just going to take it, angle it, and you're going to give it a little shake until it sticks. Once it sticks to the bottom, you're going to pull your peel right out. Close the oven. Make sure that you keep an eye on it. Okay? This is going to cook for about 4 minutes, and it'll be done.
Go.
All right, now that we're about halfway through the cooking process, it should release from the bottom. And then we need to move it to a new spot in the pizza oven, so we can move it right over here, that's fine. Just to make sure we get that bottom nice and crispy. And you can see it starting to bubble up, that cheese is starting to melt. And then we want to close it back up and let it finish up. So about probably another 2 or 3 minutes now. So go ahead and take a look at the bottom. If the bottom looks like it's getting a little too much color, then go ahead and throw it on a pizza tray and slide it back in so we can finish the top part.
Go.
All right, so we've had this in there for about 5 minutes now. We've transferred it to the pizza tray just so we can make sure that that bottom doesn't get too much color. You can see it here. If I flip it up like this, you can see that the bottom has some color. Probably a little bit more than we wanted, but that's okay. It has a nice, real feel to it. Take it out. We're gonna let it rest for just a minute. So we want that cheese to stop bubbling, and we want that moisture to kind of go back inside there, and then we'll just cut this and serve it. It's ready to go. So it's that easy to make a pizza.